Let's talk about something of a paradox, something you might have even noticed about yourself. The idea that a really challenging past can actually create an incredibly steady, calm present.
I mean, really think about it for a second. A crisis hits, at work, in the family, whatever. And while everyone else is just spiraling, you feel this weird sense of clarity. You're the one on the phone, the one making a plan. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, why am I like this?
Well, it turns out that unique ability to just handle it, to navigate the chaos, it might not be something you were born with. It might be something you learned. And the source of that strength could very well be a childhood that was, well, tough.
So, how in the world does that work? How does a difficult past create a calm present? Well, let's get into how your brain actually learned to adapt to its early environment. This is where the whole story really begins.
You see, if your childhood felt inconsistent, maybe even a little chaotic, your brain didn't just sit back and take it. It was training. Every single one of those unpredictable moments was like a fire drill, teaching your nervous system how to manage a constant state of high alert without totally burning out.
Now, this isn't just a nice-sounding theory. There's a real psychological principle that explains this whole thing perfectly. Let's dive into the science of why you stay so calm under pressure.
The key concept here is called stress inoculation. Honestly, the best way to think of it is like a vaccine. Your early life exposed you to these manageable doses of stress, and over time, your brain basically built up an immunity. It learned not to hit the big red panic button every single time things get a little tense.
So let's walk through that process. First, you've got that early, constant exposure to unpredictable situations. Next, your brain adapts, right? It gets incredibly good, incredibly efficient at handling those stress signals. And the results? Well, when a new crisis shows up in your adult life, your brain doesn't freak out. It sees familiar territory, and your default response isn't panic, it's focus.
So what does all this training actually leave you with? Well, you get a set of pretty remarkable skills. And these aren't just little coping mechanisms. For all intents and purposes, they're kind of like superpowers.
We're going to break down 3 of the biggest strengths that come out of this whole experience. As we go through them, you might just recognize yourself. Let's take a look.
Okay, first up, hyper-awareness. It is so easy to mistake this for anxiety, but it's something else entirely. It's more like a highly calibrated radar that's just always on, constantly scanning the room, picking up on those tiny shifts in tone, in body language, in the energy that pretty much everyone else misses.
The second strength is his almost psychic ability to read people. When you had to understand the moods of unpredictable adults just to get by, you learned to decode what people were feeling and thinking with lightning speed. That survival skill has now become this incredibly powerful social instinct. It gives you an edge in almost any situation.
And finally, there's a strong internal locus of control. That sounds a little academic, but what it really means is that when chaos kicks off, you don't waste a single drop of energy on the things you can't change. You instinctively zero in on what you can do, what you can influence, which is, by the way, the most effective way to handle any crisis.
This all brings us to a really new and I think powerful perspective, because the most important part of this whole thing is reframing how you see your past, and maybe even more importantly, how you see yourself right now.
You might have been told, or maybe you've even felt it yourself, that you're calm in a crisis means you're emotionally detached or numb. But the psychological reality, it's so much more powerful than that. You haven't lost your feelings. You've built up a profound emotional endurance. You can stand firm in storms that would wash other people away.
You have to understand that this ability of yours isn't a flaw. It's not a disorder. It is, as the source material puts it so well, a rare power built in silence and struggle, one that was forged when nobody else was even watching.
So let's just be crystal clear. For so many people, this isn't a narrative about what was broken in you, it's a testament to what was built. This isn't just about post-traumatic stress, this is the very definition of post-traumatic growth. You know, this understanding really can change everything. It reframes your entire history not as a source of weakness, but as the very source of your greatest strength. So the only question that's left is probably the most important one of all. Now that you recognize this power in you, how are you going to use it?